Welcome to Beyond Your Job, the podcast where we talk about work, life, balance, and everything in between. I'm your host, Iris Clapper, a former attorney and writer with a master's degree in industrial and organizational psychology. I'm also a certified professional coach and consultant. So while that's a mouthful, the takeaway is that I'm fascinated by the psychology of work and its impact on how we live. This podcast was born from something I kept seeing in my clients, in my friends, and definitely in myself. You can be thriving in your career, but if you're burning out, it doesn't just stay at work. It permeates home life, marriage, relationships, and of course your emotional and physical well-being. During each episode, I sit down with professionals from diverse industries to gain insight, inspiration, and a few laughs while having honest, thoughtful conversations where everything is fair game as long as they're up for it. With us today is Lori Selsberg, an executive attorney and founder known for building a career defined by strategic pivots and impact. She began in financial services compliance after law school, then quickly moved into large-scale business transformation, consistently driving revenue growth, cost reduction, and operational efficiency. Her career spans financial services, life sciences, and high tech, where she has led complex enterprise-wide initiatives across both global organizations and emerging companies. Most recently, Lori co-founded DocuGuardian, an intelligent legacy infrastructure that helps individuals organize, protect, and share critical life information. Going beyond storage, the platform is building an intelligence layer that makes information understandable and actionable when it matters most. On a personal note, Lori and I met in college 40 years ago. It's mind-boggling, and we also went to the same law school, so we have been in each other's lives for a very, very long time. It's such an honor and such a privilege and just such personal fun having you with me here today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you, Iris. You and I have kept in touch on and off, and especially in the last few years. So I'm so excited to do this, to chat with you today. You and I have both pivoted our careers, so
Yes.
Let's chat.
Let's talk about it. What fascinates me the most is that you co-founded your company with your husband and best friend. And that's something that you're not only invested in personally, but also adds these additional layers of stuff to the venture. So I can't wait to get right into that. But before we do that, tell us a little bit about your background, because you've worked in many different companies, many different spheres, and now you've transitioned into building a legacy, something of your own.
Yeah, so you read my background, so I'm not going to repeat some of the high-level
Yes.
information that you shared, but I'll give you the Lori Selsberg down and dirty. I historically was a job jumper. So as you said, you and I both went to law school. I'm a law school grad. I took the bar in 3 states, none of which I ended up living in.
Which always cracked me up that happened.
Well, when we were young, we didn't know where we were going to end up. And then
Yes.
my husband, blew that up because I had to take that third bar when I met him in Connecticut. And then right
Mhm.
after that, we moved to Massachusetts, and I said, I'm not doing this anymore. So I started my career in financial services in compliance. So it sounded like it worked. So I was never the operational person. Back then, it wasn't called project management. It wasn't called business transformation. Those are current, that's current
Yes.
terminology. But I always moved the needle. That's always what I did, making things better back in the day, implementing IT, then SaaS, then just doing people process tool changes. So in my career, I had skills that I could use in any industry. So Reese, you've known me long enough. I get bored. And so when I thought I did a lot in mutual funds, I moved on to life science. And when I thought I did enough in life science, I moved on to high tech. But my skills were transferable. And so and even in the people that I hire today, I look for that transferable skill set. And then a few years ago, quite honestly, I was laid off from my last, I'll call it, big girl real job. And then Dave, my husband, has always been an entrepreneur. I have too. I had my own law firm a little bit here and
Mhm.
there,
Yeah.
and I've always been an advisor to his businesses. So we have had businesses before. We actually, way back in the day, had a restaurant. And I always say, if you can survive a restaurant, you can survive any
Yes.
business. So yeah, DocuGuardian, or what we're doing now, was a pivot, but I'm still using the same strategy transformation skills that I've always had.
And you and I have talked about that a lot. People ask me all the time, what do law, writing, and psychology and executive coaching have in common? And I say everything. Every single thing that I've studied or have done has informed the next thing. And actually, I think it was all in preparation for this moment. But for you in particular, because I've known you for so long, so I have such an advantage here, you are such a people person. You always read the room. And I should also mention that you were a year ahead of me in college. So you were always a big sister, a mentor, especially in law school where I really, really hated life. And I feel like you are amazing at just reading the room, scanning the situation, seeing who needs what, and stepping up. Because it's not just enough to know what's going on, but you always stepped up. You were always that person that people can count on. So your people skills and your emotional IQ, for me personally, have always been off the charts.
Well, that is a big thank you to you, and I appreciate it. And same back to you. I always say I think differently than most people, and I know that I do. And so, one of the things that's very important to me, and people say this, I live my life to try to help. I try to serve. I really do. I don't just say it. I'm a score
I
mentor.
know that.
But in doing that, I overextend myself. My husband always says that I never say no. And so I do for myself too. I definitely take care of myself, but I take care of others. It's just what I do. So I
I
appreciate being thanked for it.
It's so true. And I am going to go out on a limb and say that I think that your self-confidence and your presence and your personal gravitas, which some people just have, and you're one of those people, I think that that could have been misunderstood in certain circumstances because you are the most sensitive, the most empathetic
Right.
person with the biggest heart, but you come across as a master of the universe in person. And I know that there were some people who were scared of you way back in the day. And when we lived in the sorority house, 4 rooms down from one another, you were a rock for me. And I always saw that as such an asset. So I think that somehow you just managed to harness that perfect combination of confidence and service and empathy and truly be there for other people. I have seen that consistently for 40 years. I feel like I'm an expert on
Well,
Lori. So
that's exactly what I was just about to say. I mean, you're demonstrating your skill set right there, what you're expert at, because you hit the nail on the head. And you and I have never really spoken about this, right? I mean, we haven't.
I
But
think
when
we
you
haven't.
said
Yeah.
this is a challenge in my life, is that I am very confident. I do truly believe that I can do anything. There's no hurdle. And it comes because some of the situations that I've had in my life and some of them that you know. And so I truly believe I can do anything. That's not always a good thing, but you're right. Some people don't see past that. You explained it better than I can, but that is one of the challenges in my life. Some people think I'm too tough, too strong, but on the inside, it's just all melt and mush and heart and care, and
It
that's
is.
not everybody recognizes that. I think as I've aged, I've gotten better at demonstrating the true soft side of myself, along with the confident side. But when I was younger, yeah, that was a little bit harder for me, even though I still had the same makeup and composition. But I think I've gotten better at just managing it. It's not easy to work on.
I think it's also not easy to say because we know who we are inside. I'm going to share something incredibly personal here too. I have suffered my entire life from people thinking that I'm standoffish or snobby.
Hmm.
And the thing is, I'm incredibly introverted, which people don't know about me because I write and I put myself out there and I have very close friends and very close connections that I've had for years. And now I'm doing this podcast where I expose myself and others. And all day long, I talk to people and help people and do the things that I love doing. But I'm an introvert. I mean, I'm not even ambivert is the combination of
Right.
introvert and extrovert, but I am introvert with some ambivert tendencies. I'm not even remotely an extrovert. So for me, I've also grown up seeing people's reactions and almost doing a check on myself and sometimes going overboard in trying to help people see who I really am. And at some point, I was just done with that because this is who I am.
And so is your podcast. Here I am interviewing the podcaster. That's the Lori Selsberg move. So
Love.
is this podcast, and I know this has been a passion of yours for a long time, so
Mhm.
congratulations on this. And so is this part of that journey that you were just talking about?
I don't think so. I think that this podcast specifically is about my fascination with the psychology of work. So, the ability to sit down with people from varied backgrounds and talk not just about the work, but truly
Right.
beyond the job. So, how life spills into work, work spills into life. This is not just an extension, but it's the very essence of what it is that I'm so fascinated by, why I had the career pivot, why I went back to school, because this is what I want to hear about all day long. How we find balance, how we define ourselves, what our roles are, our identities, how those things shift as we move through life, through our transitions, and how it affects everything, how it affects our partners, our children, our friends, every moment in life. It's just, to me, we spend so much time at work that it's just
Yeah.
inevitable that it all spills into one thing together. And so that's really what this is about. Because I call writing my two-dimensional outlet, but this is more
Three.
my three-dimensional, because then I get to have the conversation with somebody else and actually explore it rather than working it all out in my head, writing it up and submitting it to someone. So actually, that's a perfect segue to asking you, why DocuGuardian? How did you come up with that?
So, DocuGuardian is part of my journey. And so there were many layers that led to the creation of it. I think the last straw that broke the camel's back, or created this wonderful platform, was, and there were events before, but Dave and I, my husband partner, we both got COVID before the vaccines were available. And as you know, I have type 1 diabetes. I've had it for 39 years now, which is a long time. And so when COVID came out, if you were a person with a medical condition, and diabetes was the main one that they were talking about, if you ended up in the ER, they were saying, like, pretty much don't come. You are not going to get the ventilator. And so that was really scary for me and for us. We were fine. So it's not a scary story like that. But our daughters, both of them were starting to adult. They were actually in college. One was graduating, so they were young still in their 20s. And we thought, what would happen to them if something happened to us? And we're a really open family. We talk about death. We're just a very open family. We talk about everything. Everyone has. I have that one daughter that calls me a lot, many, let's just say many times a day. So we have open communication, and we thought, well, what will happen? So Dave had this great idea. He's going to create folders online in an unsecured platform. We're going to name them My Favorite Recipes, and we're going to get the kids on a phone call. And that's what we did. The folders were called, the pasta. The pasta folder had the legal documents, and the soup folder had all of the financial, and then the insurance, and so, because we thought we had to hide it, because we were just putting it out there for all the world to see
Right.
online. So we started doing the research, and we realized, I mean, especially like background as a lawyer, we did research on the percentage of estate battles, fights, arguments between families. I think it's 52%. They occur because the children, adult children, however old, didn't know the true intentions that mom and dad had. And then weather related disasters have increased 400% in the last 50 years. And data drives decision making in 2024 when we were there. So we just thought this is a great idea. When we first set out to create DocuGuardian, we did our research, and while there were a couple players in the market, we couldn't find them. They weren't really hitting the ground running. So we set out on the journey to, create a place for people to have access to security, safety, and peace of mind.
Which is an amazing concept and so important today. And the security factor. I mean, hackers hack into hospital systems.
Yep, right.
So certainly it's a very frightening prospect. So you started the business with Dave, who is your best friend. And I'm wondering, what made you think that you could do a business with your husband every day, 24/7? How does that work?
This is 10,000% 24/7. Dave and I are a very unique couple. When people who know me watch this podcast, they are going to say 100%. We are that couple. We're not mushy, we're not all over each other, but he literally is my best friend. Some people say, oh, my husband is my best friend. We go to the supermarket together, we cook dinner together, even like we've always known just everything about each other's lives. I don't have one girlfriend that I am closer to than Dave, not even my daughters. Like, he is my best friend, confident. Actually, we hung out all day on Saturday. My neighborhood has bunko on Friday night, and I'm like, why would you do that on Friday night? I have to hang out with my husband on Friday night. That's what I do.
I haven't seen him at all week.
Right? All week, every night. He said just yesterday, and we say it all the time, he said, I don't think that there's another couple that spends all week together, all day together, and then we were cooking dinner together, and then we were trying to pretend to learn how to play mahjong together last night. And yeah, we're that strange couple. So that's never been a problem. But what's unique about us is that we're different, but fundamentally the same. And you, as an expert in people, can definitely explain this better than I can. We're so many things on surface level. If Dave's one way, I'm another. He is a black and white guy. I'm middle of the road. There's just so many things that are completely different about us. But when it comes down to fundamentals and culture and care and how we live our life and our EQ and just everything about us, we are the same fundamentally. And so it's an interesting concept. And I think opposites really do attract in business, in pleasure, in everything. So it was never a thought, can we do this together? That was never it. And like I said, we've had other businesses together. Like I said, we had a restaurant. So that was a lot.
So how do you separate those? So what I'm also hearing is that all week long you were working. So it actually doesn't sound that strange to me that you want to spend Friday night and Saturday night together, because during the week, it's a different kind of spending time together. So describe that separation, or maybe not. Maybe work spills right into life. Or do you not talk about it?
We do. They're both everywhere, especially when it's your own business, right? I think if a couple, if they both work at an enterprise organization and one's in finance and one's in HR and they're a married couple, but it's not their own business. When you have a startup, when you have your own business, it's a completely different mindset, different plan, different strategy. So I think there's two questions here. One is, how do we separate what we each do during the day for work? And then how do we separate work from not work? So on the first question, because I said we're so opposite, we don't have to say who's doing what. Dave is an operations person. I am a strategy person. I'm a transformation person. He is more in the weeds. We have our lanes, and it's innate because we've known each other for 35 years. It's know who's going to do this. Now, sometimes we help each other, but on the work side, it is so obvious who does what. But then we have the problem, because we spend so much time together, we both want to be on the meetings at the same time. And we're a startup. My day is packed. We have to divide and conquer. We don't need two of us all the time. Sometimes it's a great different perspective. Dave describes it completely different than me. We have an interesting composition to our relationship. But on the other side, what you asked about regarding the family, if my daughters were here in the interview, they would say there's no separation, especially lately with the business starting to scale, and it really is a lot of work and a lot of time. They were just here a few weeks ago, and we just had to keep stopping ourselves from bringing it to every dinner table and every golf game and everywhere we were. It is hard. It is hard. It comes up all the time, and we keep trying to remind ourselves. On the weekends, we're still working because it's our business, and your own business doesn't sleep. It's actually easier now that
Doesn't.
it's actually easier that it's both of us, right? If I had a husband that had his own business and he was so focused on it, and I was over here doing, going to get my nails done and hanging out with the girls, I don't think our relationship would be as good. It's easy because we're both focused on the same thing.
That actually makes perfect sense. And personally for me as well, I started my own business, so I'm not the best example of work-life balance right now. But on the other hand, I so love what I'm doing that everything feels personal and exciting. I'm not pushing somebody else's papers around a desk. I'm doing what I'm truly passionate about and what I want to do in this phase of my life. And at the same time, my husband, who works a really crazy job, decided to go back to school for his MBA. And thankfully, he'll be done in a couple months. But it was perfect timing because we're both incredibly busy. So we're both working on Saturdays and Sundays and also carving out that time. And there's some overlap in what we do.
Right.
And we find that we talk about work during dinner. If there's something big that we need to talk about, it spills beyond dinner as well. But we sort of do that daily debrief. And after that, I think it's not conscious. We just sort of transition into other things that we're doing that night. Walking the dog, sitting on our porch, binge watching, talking about other things, engaging with our kids who don't live in the house with us anymore. But whatever it is, I think it's just a subconscious pattern that we have fallen into to create some balance, because at the end of the day, neither one of us really wants to talk about work until midnight,
Right.
even though work is incredibly important to both of us.
And I completely understand that. It drifts off, and then sometimes it creeps back, and then you have to be intentional about stopping it. So yeah, I think it's similar in your circumstance and mine, even though you aren't in the same business, but you're each doing something that's super important and relevant to both of you.
Yes, and there's overlap. I mean, he could be looking at statistics, or he wants somebody to eyeball a set of
Well,
citations on his paper, and he could just hand that to me.
mhm.
And I say, I'm going to look at that while you quickly look at this computer issue that I'm having. And if you can fix that, and then we switch. So we have laptops open at all times on our kitchen counter, but it works for us. We also say when enough is enough, and then we have to respect each other's boundaries and also our own. So I know that you and Dave love to travel as much as my husband and I do. So what happens? Do you shut that out of a vacation? How does that work? Because that's hard.
That is hard. And unfortunately, with a startup, with your own business, it doesn't go away. When we've traveled of late, we do have people that work for us that we're very fortunate that can hold down the fort. But of course, yeah, it comes along on the vacation with us. It does, unfortunately.
Sometimes
But
it's inevitable.
we ski, and so this year we were just in Utah. So I have my helmet. It has my music in it. It's all hooked up to my phone. Phone ringing. I can't tell who it is. Siri doesn't announce who's calling. I hit the button while I'm skiing, and it's somebody trying to sell me something for my business. And I'm like, I'm skiing right now. Call me next week. But generally speaking, we don't let it interrupt. We have actually, it's funny, for the last few years, just coincidentally, while we've been traveling, we've been hiring during that time. So we have had circumstances where during the trip, and our daughters go with us every year on the ski trip, where we've done like the morning will be interview time, and we have our scorecard set up, and we talk to six people in a row for 30 minutes each. So we have done that. And we don't ski every day. It's hard when he pushes me sometimes to ski every day in a row. That's hard anyway. So I don't mind that break. But yeah, definitely, especially not having a brick and mortar business and having an online SaaS based, virtual business. it travels along with me.
Do you feel that working with your husband has changed your definition of work-life balance? I know that you've had other businesses with him in the past, but you've also worked on your own in these mega corporations, and that work comes home in a very different type of way. Has this changed that definition for you?
Yes, for me, I've always been an advisor. So you talk about like the dinner conversation, you debrief about your day. I'm an advice giver. I love to give unsolicited advice. It goes back to my caring and helping. And so for our entire lives together, we've always been like you and your husband are, where we help each other at the dinner table with whatever aspects. But
Yeah.
so it's always crept, right? The work-life balance, there's a balance, but it's never 100% separated. So that being said, you are correct. It has changed the balance of the balance. And I wonder if we purchased an established business, if the answer would be the same, because I think it's a combination of being co-founders and a new business. I imagine in 20 years, it might not be as meshed together, the work and the life, but I would say it changed it. I don't know if it's for the worse, it's just for the different.
I think also we're both in a season of our lives that our children are grown up. We're empty nesters. So some people have said to me, "Are you crazy? Why are you starting this venture now?"
Yes,
I think it's the perfect time.
me too.
It's actually the perfect time to do that. So I feel that in my case, it's integrated into my personal relationships and into my relationship with myself in a healthy way because I'm actually working on this is a passion project. This is what I want to be doing. So for me, the stress of working outside the home, let's say in a law firm, billable hours, everything that goes along with that, the stress that I brought home then to the dinner table and beyond and into my weekend is very different than the stress of I didn't finish what I wanted to do today because of a deadline I gave myself
Yes.
and something that I want to finish and that I will finish. There's no resentment. I might finish dinner and then go back into my office for an hour. That's not really common for me, but I might. And there's no resentment because I'm doing this for me.
Or yourself. Well said. That's where you're the expert at that. And I completely agree. I spent the first 20 years of my life commuting on a train to Boston with two babies, children. I didn't take time off from work. So as soon as my kids were each 8 weeks old, I was working. And I can
Yeah.
remember, Aris, getting off the train. I stepped off the train, my 45-minute train ride, stepped off the train, got a call from the school nurse that one of them had the chicken pox, and I did this U-turn to get back on the train. That was a very stressful time to to be working and in an office 5 days a week with no easy way to get where I needed to be. Thankfully, Dave was in a car, so he was available more often than I was. But I couldn't agree more that now, with the kids out of the house, I mean, I'm not a pickleball player. I like to golf. I have a passion for work. I'm just a worker in my heart, in my soul. So, yeah, this is what I do. Some people like to do the lunches, and that's fine, and the shopping, but I think you and I might be similar in this respect. This is who we are, and this is what we like to do. I know that my father, I grew up in a working household. I mean,
Mhm.
everybody did, but like my dad was a CPA, he was an attorney, he did tax season, right? I mean, he worked round the clock, till April 15th. I just grew up with a very strong work ethic, and it's what I like to do. I know people find that strange.
I don't. And not only do I not find that strange, not only do I like to work, but I'm also fascinated by the psychology of work. So I like working and I like talking about working. And I want to hear about what other people like or don't like about their jobs. And it really is the reason I named this podcast Beyond Your Job, because it's everything beyond the job. The job is just a job title and requirements that we have to fulfill to get something done and meet certain metrics.
And a
But there's so
paycheck.
many
right?
And a paycheck,
Sorry to
of course.
interrupt you. Yeah, and a paycheck.
Of course, you're right. There's so many things beyond that. And it's an integration. I mean, it doesn't just exist in a vacuum. It has an effect on everything. I mean, when you talk about your girls being babies and you being on that train, I felt that viscerally. I think I had like a little minor panic attack because I remember those days. And I had the privilege, I was told, of an extra 2 weeks. So my kids made it to 10 weeks before I went back to work because, yay, I had 2 C-sections.
Yes, there you
So
go.
that was supposed to be, oh, you're so lucky. You get a little bit extra. And the thing is, I never considered not working because I grew up in that trajectory where that's what you did. And I never even really stopped to evaluate, am I happy? Do I like it? Do I not like it? Because back then it really was all about the paycheck and the expectations and what you're supposed to do. I went to law school. You're supposed to be a lawyer. And
That's so funny. We're talking about things that I've known you for so long, and we've talked deeply about
yeah,
things,
yeah.
but never these topics. This is amazing. You know, I'll be honest, and I don't know if you're going to publish this, but I I wanted to go back to work after I had my kids. I adore my children. I'm just not a baby mom. I am built for working. And so when I hear so many people, it's just so bad. They cry when they drop their baby off at daycare. I loved picking them up because I got to spend real quality time with my kids, not the all day, I got the good time with them, the quality. It might not have been as long
What's
as
wrong with
others.
that?
Yeah, I love it.
Nothing.
They thank me now
Nothing.
for, having such an interesting upbringing. Before I had kids, I never thought that I would ever do that, leave my kids with a stranger.
So we talk about roles and we talk about identities. And I think that women are so torn because there are so many societal constructs that still exist today. And our kids are well into their 20s of how we're supposed to feel or how we're supposed to act. We both are beyond super close and enmeshed with our kids.
Right.
Maybe some would say overly so.
Yes.
But this is our way, both of us, and this is just how it is. And I don't want to have to qualify saying, oh, you know how much I adore my kids, but I really just didn't love the whole like baby thing. And I'm going to go out on a limb and now I'll probably get hate mail, but I'm not the person who walks down the street or in the mall and sees a baby in a stroller and says, oh my God, how cute. My husband does. And that's so cool. And
It's
now I
so
feel the
funny.
need to say immediately, I love my children so much and
Right.
I love my friends' children. I feel the need to say that because I'm afraid I'm going to be judged. I loved having teenagers. Go ahead, judge me on that too. I did
Me
because you
too.
know what? It was hard. But so is every stage if you take parenting seriously. And I loved watching their personalities develop, their values develop. I love seeing who they stood up for and what were the circumstances and watching them grow as human beings. That was amazing to me. And I did. I loved that more than I loved the baby milestones. So that's a personal thing, and that's okay. But we have to qualify that, and we have to justify ourselves and explain. And it's crazy that we should have to do that. It doesn't make us any less of a mom or a human being.
Aris, I am giggling inside because I'm going to say it again. I've known you for so long. I did not know that we shared that. I really didn't. I
Because
have
it
to
was
say that.
shameful. You weren't supposed to talk about it.
Right.
So there was a woman who gave me a gift when I was working years ago at US Trust. I was administering
Mhm.
huge trusts and estates, and it was an amazing job that I really loved actually. And I was on maternity leave with my oldest, and one of my friends from work came to visit me, and she said, "How's it going?" And I said, "Oh, it's great. It's just great." And he was just a few weeks old. And she looked at me and she said, "You know, you don't have to say that. It's okay if it sucks. You can be honest." And she shared some things about herself, and she gave me a gift because she allowed me to just be authentic and honest. It didn't mean that I loved my baby any less. It was hard. I had a complication after my C-section. I wasn't sleeping. He wasn't sleeping. There were a lot of things going on.
Hard.
And it was hard. And she probably visited me after I'd been up for like a week straight or something. And interestingly, I did not have postpartum depression. I just had normal, whatever that means, exhaustion and self-doubt and fear and just the things that young moms have, which is okay to say.
Aris, I'm going to tell you something, and I didn't know this was going to be a topic of what we were talking about today, but
Neither.
when I always say, we talked about it at the beginning, I have a lot of confidence and I think that I can do anything. If you ask me, what are some things that you've failed at? That was not, I'm a good mom, don't get me wrong, but I was not a good baby mom. I didn't know how to do it. It was the thing in my life that I was the worst at. Besides, I got a D in typing in high school because my pinky couldn't reach the the A in the semi. But worst grade ever, typing. But it was the only other thing that I didn't have the confidence to do, and I knew I wasn't good at.
I questioned myself all the time, and I was also incredibly overprotective, and I went overboard, and I went into all of these like rules around hygiene and all this stuff that I thought needed to happen in order to protect the babies. And my kids are probably listening to this and laughing because I still do all those things, but we just don't know. There's no manual. I don't care how many books are out there, and I read them all. And my husband specializes in women's health, but it didn't really matter. I just doubted myself all the time. And I think that those doubts made it very hard. And the fact that we have to justify ourselves on top of it while we're feeling all those feelings, the fact that you and I are sitting here 30 years later still saying those things is kind of ridiculous.
It's very ridiculous.
We give ourselves permission, like it's okay. That was our first time having a baby.
Yep. I agree. There we go.
And they turned out pretty great.
He did. We're both. I say I'm fortunate, but
I don't think we're fortunate.
Right. That's what I was.
Really
That's what I was gonna say. I always say
yes,
I'm fortunate,
luck is helpful.
but we did it. We did it exactly.
Luck is helpful. I mean, you can't control everything. There's certainly many things that we've talked about that throw a monkey wrench in the whole business of child rearing, but luck does play into it, but it's also hard work. It's the hardest job I've ever had. It's so much easier, I think, to just be at work and do the thing that you know how to do. It's very prescribed. There are metrics. You know what you need to do to get a certain place. It doesn't work like that with children. It just doesn't.
Well said.
What advice can we give people who feel stuck between expectations and wanting something more or something more meaningful in their lives? I always say dare to dream big, but I'm sure there's something beyond that.
It's funny that you say that. I'm not a huge dreamer. I'm a live for today, walk where my feet are. Dave's a huge dreamer.
Mm-hmm.
Like then that's where I was saying that we're opposite. I just want people, as long as it's ethical, comfortable, legal. I just always have that risk
Yes.
part of my brain. Do what you want, what you feel good about. I think the biggest challenge that women especially have is worrying what other people think. That's one thing
Yes.
that Lori Selsberg doesn't do. And maybe I should do it more, but
No, you
I mean,
shouldn't.
because I am authentic and I try to be a good person. They have to go together, right? As long as you're a good person, you don't have to worry about. I don't worry about what other people think, and some people overthink what other people think, and that holds them back. That's just my opinion.
I will also add that I think that everybody should have trusted voices, mentors, people that they look
Many.
up to in their life, because when you can just lean on somebody else that you trust, run your ideas past them. But like you, I believe that I can do what I want to do. I talk to so many people in my life that I trust and I run things by them. And that's not because I don't trust myself or because I care what other people think. I care what the people I trust think because they help me arrive at the right thing. I spoke to you when I was offered that radio show
Yes.
instead of this podcast, and we spoke about it a lot. And I was considering doing it for all the wrong reasons. That doesn't mean I wouldn't do something like that in the future, but it was all around chasing advertisers, maybe interviewing people that I'm not interested in interviewing, a certain format, breaks for commercials, all those things. I was very focused on how that was going to happen instead of why. When I stopped with all of that, the why was I have a message. I want to have a conversation. I want to have this back and forth where we're both exploring the psychology of work and everything beyond that in a place where I'm not beholden to anybody. I don't owe anybody an interview. I can say what I want to say, and my guests can say what they want to say, unless they tell me to edit something else.
That's great. And it makes me think, and what you say about the why is super important. And if you think back to law school, I think it was probably first year, right? We talked about policy, the policy behind the law. That's what
Yes.
matters. And like in business, and now we always try to get to the root cause, right? In business transformation and in any sort of identifying improvement, we're always trying to figure out the root cause so we can fix it. And what you say about the why, to me, is really important because that's what matters more than the what when you're trying to really dig in and understand.
Yes. And I think that there is a healthy balance of caring what other people think and following your gut.
And something that you said, I just want to reiterate because I was told many years ago by one of my mentors that everybody, I'm going to say especially women, not to be sexist here, but we all should have at least 5 mentors because, different people have different opinions. And I do agree with, mentoring, coaching, having people to help guide your big decisions is super important.
I felt like that was one of the things that was lacking for me in law school. And conversely, the positive impact of just giving a tiny bit, the littlest thing. And so I try to do that. And I have a lot to say about a lot of situations, but I do have a rule that I compliment twice as much as I complain. So if it's something that is worth noting, I actually send that email and I give that compliment to that person's supervisor because I think it's so important. And so that whole thing about how we live our lives and around work and mentors and people who care for us and we care for them, it's just invaluable.
I am the first person to write the negative letter to the manager or the
Yes,
leadership team, but I also write many,
yes, no, you
many
do.
positive letters. When we moved out of our house 2 years ago, the one that we lived in the longest, I think I was on a work trip and Dave and my 2 daughters were going through the boxes in the attic and they found my box of letters from like back in the day before when I would like type them out. So I have my box of letters that I send, positive and negative. It's a joke in the
It's
family.
I know that about you. So now you have your box of documents in the cloud. How can our listeners find you or find the website? Can you give us a little bit of information?
Yeah, so it's online. It's called DocuGuardian. So it's www.docuguardian.com. So it's DocuGuardian.com. And that's the best way. Once you're on there, you can sign up to either be a partner or you can sign up to learn more. And obviously I'm on LinkedIn, but my LinkedIn and DocuGuardian is on LinkedIn and Facebook and all the social platforms. Just to give a little bit of info, if someone is interested in learning more, not sure if DocuGuardian would be a good product for them, there's a lot of information on the website. And also, if you go into our guides and resources page, we have free information there for learning just about legacy planning and getting your documents in order. And there's just a wealth of information. There's hundreds of articles on there. At least we're always looking for articles to add. So if you wanted to add something to our guides and insights page, that would be welcome as well. Lori,
And as a
one more
familiar,
thing. Sorry, Lori at DocuGuardian.com, Lori at DocuGuardian, spelled the same way, .com is my email address.
And as a former trust and estates lawyer, you know that I think it's a
you.
fantastic idea. So before I let you go, I'm going to ask if you're up for a quick lightning round of questions. I ask all guests the same 10 questions because it's just a fun thing to follow and see how different people answer. So my first one is introvert or extrovert?
Extrovert, but yes, I have to, if I choose one or the other on the witness stand, I have to say extrovert.
Early bird or night owl?
I prioritize sleep, so I'm almost neither. I count my hours of sleep. So if I would rather go to bed early.
And I want to plug sleep as honestly probably one of the most important things that anybody could do. So I'm just going to go out and say that. What do you do for fun?
Travel, ski. I am an active person, bike, golf, swim, active. Love to travel, love to spend time with the family.
Love that. What's the last show you binge watched?
Creepy show, The Beast in Me on Netflix. Did you see it?
I
Really
did.
good. Really
That,
creepy.
yes, that was creepy.
But good.
Yeah. I do like creepy shows, but I have to cut it off at 9 so that I'm doing
Yes.
something else before I go to bed because otherwise it comes out in my dreams and I have really fitful night's sleep. What song instantly puts you in a good mood?
I always love Third Eye Blind, Semi-Charmed Life. Do you know it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I do.
I
That
also
is a
like
fun
all the songs from college, from the Rathskeller, all those old songs. Brandy, American Pie.
American Pie,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. All those
That
songs.
instantly reminds me of college. What secret power would you choose if you could?
Hmm. S- Peace. Is that a superpower?
You know what? I not only love that, but you are the second person that I've interviewed who said to me that if he could, he would bring about world peace. And I thought about that this morning before we got on our chat here, and I love that. I love that so much.
And
Somebody needs
honestly,
to.
Aris, I don't know the best answer for that question, but when I saw you, it made me think of that too, just because I know that you've written about peace and whatnot in your past. So it made me, that's why it came to my brain. But yeah, I think that's a
I,
good one.
it's a great one. I hope you get that one. Who would play you in a movie about your life?
I get this all the time, and maybe not today, but once a week I get that I look like Tina Fey. So I would say Tina Fey, but only because of that. She's tall, I'm short, but personality wise, I'm not sure, but I'll just say Tina Fey.
I think it's a huge compliment to both of you. Do you prefer a short text or a long conversation?
Depends with whom.
What's your biggest pet peeve?
People not doing either what they're supposed to or what they say they're going to do.
I, I knew you were going to say that.
You did.
Yes, I did. I just knew you were going to say that. I'm with you. What's the number one thing on your bucket list?
I don't have an actual drafted bucket list. Dave and my daughter are like bucket list people. A couple years back, Dave and I skied from Switzerland to Italy, and we were in Zermatt, and we had lunch in Italy, and we skied back to Switzerland, and I would love to do that with my daughters, all four of us.
And I know you will. Well, I just adore you, and having you here today was so much fun.
This was
I feel like we
great.
had just one of our personal conversations and then we got recorded, so I'm not sure how I'm going to
I know.
feel listening back to it, but here we are. This is us.
This is us. I love it. Thank you so much, Aris. I think that you are a genius, smart, caring, loving. No, really. Look, you are, and I'm not just saying that. And that's one thing you know about me. I don't BS. I always say it like it is, and I just thank you so much for your support and for allowing me the opportunity to chat with you online instead of just offline.
Thank you for your friendship. You have no idea how much you mean to me
Oh,
and how
thank you.
long you've meant so much to me.
Ditto, ditto. Love you.
I love you. And that's a wrap. If you like this episode, please subscribe, give a 5-star rating, and share the love. You can always reach out to me through my website, iriseclappercoachingandconsulting.com.